The January 6th pardons are an abomination.
But with the pardons, what's your take on that?
Here's what I think. Were these people punished? Yes. Were they ruined financially? Yes. Did they spend time in jail? Yes. Have their lives been ruined? Absolutely. And one of you said earlier, Van or Axe, that you think this sends a terrible signal that you can get away with things like this, as though we've never had a moment in recent American history when people were not punished for rampaging around when they shouldn't have been. It was the summer of 2020. And these people were actually punished. Those people were never even charged.
That's not true at all.
That's not true. Most charges were not.
Let him answer.
But I do see it differently in that I don't like it when people tear up buildings at all. I'm not a part of some pro-riot, pro-crime lobby. But I really don't like when people attack police officers. I really don't like it at all. I'm the son of a police officer. My uncle's a police officer. I don't like it at all. If you attack a police officer, before you get any lenience or before you get any support from this society, you should apologize. And they didn't. And that's wrong. And you yourself and others said you would have a problem if the violent ones were let go.
I concede it. I agree.
And that's my problem tonight.
I agree. I don't like the idea specifically the people that attack police. I'm in agreement with you on that. But I do think it is important to note that these people, whatever they did, whether it was just accidentally walking in or doing something much, much worse, Elliot, you can correct me if I'm wrong, most of them, if not all of them, did get punished, serve some kind of time. And my assumption is virtually all of them have had their lives effectively ruined by this.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So you got to talk about yet again another meltdown from the left over Trump's first day in office, okay? Some of his executive orders that he signed, promises made, promises kept. And at this point, I just believe that the left, they're going to have a hard time if they're going to melt down and boo-hoo whine and cry every day for the next 4 years like this. Right?
But this is day one, unfolding pretty much the way we expected it to. And yes, this is novel in American history, but it is also knowable in world history. Because it's the same stuff every other would-be authoritarian leader does in every country that has had to contend with a leader like that. And as Americans, you know, we've had bad inaugurations before, including the one where one of the principals was too drunk to stand. We've had blatant cash in envelopes to the vice president corruption before. We've had political violence before. We've had civil war. But before, each of those things has been treated as a calamity and a scandal. This time, it's a platform. This is textbook authoritarian takeover 101 tactics, which means today and literally over the next few days, they're going to see what they can get away with and how much they can cow people into not opposing what they're doing and not speaking out about what's wrong with it. More than ever, this is not a time to pretend this isn't happening. You're going to want to have a good answer when you get asked what you did for your country when your country started to take a turn this radical. We are here. It is happening in our lifetimes. Well, we are citizens responsible for the fate of our country.
Right. This is what they're going to do. Hey, it's going to be a great 4 years for me. It's going to be a terrible 4 years for them. I just don't know if they can keep this up into perpetuity, right? I just don't know. But we'll see, right? They're going strong, okay? Because you have another strong meltdown to react to coming from the cackling hens on The View who are upset about Trump issuing sweeping pardons and using his clemency powers to undo the prosecution, the persecution of the January 6th protesters, okay? I believe he granted full pardons to over 1,500 people who have faced criminal charges or been in jail or currently in jail due to January 6th, including the individuals who were roughing up police officers. Yeah, and that is sparking a whole lot of controversy and backlash from not just the mainstream liberal media, but also the Democrats as well, too, okay, who are having a hard time going through the mental gymnastics to justify Biden issuing pre-pardons, right, for his family and others who may have committed crimes. But somehow, some way, we're supposed to be upset about Trump pardoning the January 6th protesters.
Can I ask you, because on that point, I want to get you to respond to this, because what I'm already hearing from people who work for Trump and are his allies is that there's really no leg for the Democrats don't have a leg to stand on because President Biden leaving today, issued a raft of pardons, including for his own family members and his sister and his brothers and their spouses, and then also for an activist, an elderly activist who is convicted of killing 2 FBI agents. Chris Wray did not even want him to commute that sentence that President Biden did today. They say that doesn't give Democrats an argument here to criticize these pardons. What is your response to that?
I mean, I think that's the mistake we're seeing now is people trying to reduce this to tribalism. This is not about Democrat or Republican. Joe Biden pardoned a lot of people. Yeah, he should answer for that and explain what he did and his reasoning. But the people he pardoned, his family members, did not, before the naked public eye, beat police officers, try to overthrow our government, lead to the death of police officers, and have injuries, scars, both visible and invisible, on police officers that are still affecting their lives today. This is not about left or right in our country. We can't just say this is a tit for tat or their side did it so my side can do it. No, this is about the values and principles that we should all be looking to uphold, the institutions of our government themselves, that these people on that day tried to overthrow. Let's stop with the rank partisanship. The President of the United States of America has just pardoned people who physically attacked, violently led to the death of officers like Sicknick, and we should be talking about that.
It was interesting to me. I was texting with a lot of Democrats from across the country, state legislative leaders, because this fight is going to be in the states. As much as we look at Congress, America's policy is made in the state legislatures. And one a senior Dem state legislator from out west texted me and said, he literally just let his private militia out of jail. He said he's instilled a sense of loyalty. These people feel loyal to him,
Sure
and their
do.
lawlessness is now going to go unchecked, and he can now call on them again to do what they would like. So I know a lot of Democrats have mixed feelings about the president's preemptive pardon of his family specifically.
Oh, President Biden.
President Biden. A lot of presidents around here.
Yeah.
Steph, we got to be specific now. And I understand the concerns that people had, but I also understand what the president said is that the incoming President Trump, has promised a special prosecutor to go after, look into the Biden family. And so what he did is respond to the climate. If the lawmakers don't like it, put a check on the president and pass a bill, okay? And curb the pardon powers. But until that happens.
Yeah. So again, as always, we have the same old game that Democrats like to play, okay? It's always the whataboutism game, okay? When Democrats are called out for their corruption, that they claim they're above, by the way, right? They never take accountability and responsibility for the corruption. They just say, well, you can't criticize us because Trump is worse, right? Trump bad, okay? And in this case, I'm not sure if Trump pardoning the protesters on January 6th is worse than Biden giving out pre-pardons to his whole damn family, right? I mean, they could have done anything, okay? They could have killed people. And Biden let him get away with it. So honestly, in my opinion, I think that what Biden did is way worse than what Trump did when it comes to pardon the January 6th protesters. I don't even think Trump pardon the January 6th protesters is bad, to be honest with you, for the most part. I just think that these people that are trying to play these games and try to pretend as if we should not talk about what Biden did and we should just talk about January 6th, which is something we talked about for the last 4 years straight. I just think that these people are once again revealing their hypocrisy on this issue and why nobody takes the Democrats serious. Because not only are they misrepresenting what happened on January 6th, claiming that police officers were killed by the protesters, which is not true. That's actually not what happened. They're also revealing their hypocrisy on the issue. And the fact is that they have not learned the lesson from the election that if your argument is that you are better than Trump, okay, or that you are morally superior than him, then you actually need to live up to that, which is something that Democrats haven't quite grasped that concept, okay? That they have to actually live up to the standards that they set for everybody else. But when it comes time for them to actually do that, they fail to do it every single time. And again, this is why they're a joke. So without further ado, let's react to the cackling hens, essentially trying to make excuses for Joe Biden and fake outraging over January 6th.
He even surprised some Republicans with sweeping pardons to the January 6th insurrectionists, including Proud Boys, Oath Keepers, and other violent rioters. But he wasn't thrilled about Biden issuing pardons of his own on the way out. Take a look.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Should there be punishment for the people who assaulted law enforcement officers that day?
Well, I will say this. They've been in jail for a long time already. What they've done to these people is outrageous. I was surprised that President Biden would go and pardon his whole family, because that makes him look very guilty. And how about this J6 committee? Why is he pardoning them? They were guilty as hell. They rigged it. It was a rigged deal.
So in Trump's world, the lawmakers trying to protect democracy are thugs, and the lawbreakers are hostages. Do I have that right?
You have it right, yes.
Okay.
That's
your thoughts.
Well,
He clearly doesn't know what a hostage is, because there are still hostages right now in the Middle East. They were terrorized by Hamas and have not all come back. So that's a hostage. You can't use that term loosely. These people committed crimes.
It's kind of tacky right now in particular.
Especially right now, but this is the justice system at work. When we talk about guardrails, you said no one's there to check him. His own vice president, J.D. Vance, said a week ago that if you committed violence on that day, January 6th, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. His attorney general last week said, I condemn any violence on a law enforcement officer in this country. 60% of Americans don't agree with pardoning them. This was the biggest middle finger he could give the entire country out of all of his options.
I don't think it's a middle finger. Okay, I think ultimately at the end of the day, the biggest middle finger that was given to this country was during the BLM riots, in which you have violent protesters who were not punished. In fact, some of them got paid. They got paid money, okay, because the cops roughed them up a little bit too much, right? So we have seen political riots and protests that have gotten violent in this country, and they were given slaps on the wrist. Okay, they weren't punished. In fact, they were celebrated, right? And if you said something about it, if you say, hey, I don't agree with this, you were called a racist. Again, in fact, a lot of this was happening leading up to January 6th. I would actually go as far as to say that you don't see a January 6th without the BLM riots, right? Without the BLM riots leading up to January 6th, January 6th doesn't happen. Because the BLM riots set the stage for an era of political violence in this country that we've never seen, okay? And it continued during the Biden administration, one of the worst administrations in American history. So I'm just saying, if the BLM rioters can get a slap on the wrist, why can't the January 6th protesters get a slap on the wrist? Especially those who already have served significant jail time.
In particular, and he ran on this, I'm going to be a law and order president, which a lot of the Republican Party runs on that platform. And so I think it's really disgraceful.
Well, I mean,
that
sorry,
he would
don't you
do
think
that.
the whole panel sitting there should have burst out laughing at that moment?
Really, they
Hillary
really should have.
have laughing at some point. I started laughing too.
I'm mad at all the pardons yesterday. Well, save for two. Listen, we knew the January 6th pardons were coming. That was good. I disagree with it. I think it's dangerous. I think it's reckless. I fear that some of these people may commit crimes in the future. Sure. I think it was prudent that Joe Biden preemptively pardoned people like Dr. Fauci and Mark Milley, who are political targets for Donald Trump. He has expressed that. I was floored that Joe Biden pardoned his whole family, and let me tell you why. He's either, the most charitable interpretation is the Titanic is sinking, I've got a life raft for my family, but anyone else who challenged Trump, you better swim or you're drowning. That's my most charitable interpretation. And finally, he didn't do anything to protect people who testified against Donald Trump unless they happen to be wrapped up with the police officers. And it sets a very dangerous precedent. Now Donald Trump can basically advise staff and his family to do anything unlawful and then just issue a blanket pardon when he leaves office. I think it was disgraceful, and it's going to harm his legacy.
I actually agree with a lot of what Alyssa Farah is saying here, except when she said that pardoning the January 6th protesters was dangerous because they're likely to commit crimes. I don't think that's the case, right? To be honest with you. Maybe, again, with the BLM rioters, maybe they are likely to be repeat offenders. But in this case, I think she brings up an interesting point about the precedent that it sets, right? And I said this in my initial reaction to Biden pardoning his whole family, which is that, this essentially opens up the door for the president to use his family to commit crimes and then to turn around and issue blanket pardons to all of his family members. And they essentially can just do whatever they want to do, right? That's what it does. It essentially grants immunity to all of the president's family. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. And there can be no accountability because of the precedent set by Joe Biden. Now, Joe Biden tried to justify his pardons for his family by saying, well, Trump's so bad, right? Trump's so evil. He's so mean. He might come after me and my family. But the reality is that Joe Biden pardoning his whole family is an admission of guilt. Because as Alyssa Farah pointed out, that, hey, the most charitable interpretation of this is Joe Biden is essentially saving himself, right? While telling everybody else, screw you. Because again, if the argument is that, well, Trump is going to go after his political opponents, anybody that tries to stand up to him, then why don't you issue a pardon to the whole Democrat Party, right? The whole Democrat Party should be pardoned if that's your argument, right? If that's what you're afraid of. Why are you just saving yourself? Why are you not saving everybody else, right? Anybody could possibly be a target according to these people's logic. So again, if you really feel that way enough to pardon your own family, your whole family, then again, the whole Democrat Party should have gotten a pardon. Everybody in the media should have gotten a pardon, right? But he didn't do that. He didn't do that. Ultimately, what Joe Biden did cements him as one of the worst presidents, if not the worst president in U.S. history, certainly without a doubt. It is impossible for us to have a worse president over the next 75 years than Joe Biden. So he definitely is going to be the worst president of the 21st century. What he did was disgraceful. And if these cackling hens had any type of principles whatsoever, if they actually stood for the things they claim they stand for, like, for example, nobody's above the law, then they would criticize this and say, nope, this is not right. Especially after doing all that boohoo whining, crying, and virtue signaling about how Trump shouldn't do that after his first term in office, right? You guys remember that? Oh, no, Trump shouldn't pardon any of his family members. You can't give out pre-pardons. Pre-pardons are an admission of guilt. This is what they said. Now, all of a sudden, with Joe Biden, oh, well, we shouldn't talk about that, right? Let's not talk about it. I understand it. It's understandable. I get why he did it. Trump's so bad. Here's the thing. Biden doesn't know if Trump is actually going to waste political capital going after him and his family. He has no clue. But Trump definitely knew after he left office that the Democrats would come after him for January 6th. He knew before he left office that it was a strong possibility he would face some type of criminal charge and some issues having to do with January 6th and the election. He knew it was a strong possibility due to how crazy these lunatics are. But he said, you know what? Nah, I'm good, right? I'm good. I'm not going to set that type of precedent. Joe Biden, on the other hand, though, right, he pardoned his whole family, pre-pardon, essentially gave him a blank check. Hey, whatever crimes you may have committed for the last decade, you're good. You're good. The Biden crime family is a family full of gangsters, okay? And that's what they've done. They've essentially used the government in order to enrich themselves, and they got away with it. At least for now. We'll see.
Can I just say, I think comparing Biden's pardons to Trump's is like comparing apples to Volkswagens.
Seems really similar to Jared Kushner.
It does not seem similar to me because Joe Biden's family and the people he pardoned in the January 6th committee have not actually committed crimes. He is trying to prevent them from spending the rest of their lives fighting the government, which is no easy feat.
And this is what I can't stand about these people. It's always D for different, right? Well, it's a Democrat, so it's different. But here's the thing, though. I kind of agree with Anna, but just for different reasons, right? I think that Biden pre-pardoning his family members and others is actually worse than what Trump did. So, yeah, it is different, okay? And maybe we shouldn't compare them because what Biden did just sets a whole new precedent, right? Trump didn't set any new precedents with pardoning the January 6ers, okay? There have been violent people who have been pardoned before, okay? It has happened. So he's not doing anything new, right? The mainstream media, they're just upset about it. But Biden is doing something damn near like unheard of. He is pre-pardoning his family members, okay? His whole family. That, to me, in my opinion, suggests that Joe Biden believes that him and his family, they are above the law. But Democrats spent the last 4 years telling us how nobody is above the law, just at the end to reveal that, nope, we lied. We are above the law, right? Democrats are above the law, okay? And that we shouldn't face any accountability or responsibility for the crimes we commit. Trump was very straightforward about his intentions for the January 6th pardons, right? Nobody should be surprised that he issued the sweeping pardons that he did. He told you exactly what he was going to do, and the American people voted for it. It is what it is. But Biden and Democrats, they spent the last 4 years gaslighting the country to try to make the country think that, hey, they believe that nobody's above the law, when they didn't believe any of that. They didn't believe any of that at all. And see, this is the problem with the Democrats and the left that they don't understand. They're never going to win until they actually start to live up to the standards that they set for everybody else. You cannot lecture everybody else about being holier than thou, but then come to find out that you're not, right? That you are just as bad as the people that you claim are the worst people in this country. Remember what I told you guys about the Democrats in the last 2 weeks of the election when they kept talking about, why is it that Kamala has to be better than Hitler, right? She should have to be better than Hitler. Them saying that, it tells you everything you need to know about their mentality. They don't think they have to be better than Hitler, right? They don't think so. They think, okay, it's totally fine for us to be dirty, corrupt, to basically do all the things that we criticize our opponents for doing. It's totally fine for us to do it. It's just not okay for them to do it because we're better than them, right? And that doesn't work, right? That does not work. And as long as they fail to understand that very simple concept that you have to live up to these standards that you set for everybody else, they're going to continue to lose credibility.
I also think that no Republican and nobody who stood up on January 6th and January 7th and condemned what happened there, which was an act of treason. It was an insurrection. I don't care what you're going to call it. I don't care how you want to whitewash it. Nobody who stood up and condemned that and is today silent after those pardons should be able to look at themselves in the mirror, because you have no morals. You have absolutely no folks out.
Yeah. I mean, you can say the exact same thing about all of these cackling hens who are not standing up to Joe Biden, pardoning his whole family after claiming that nobody is above the law, right? Again, amazing how that works. Again, they don't want to live up to the same standards that they set for everybody else. Everybody else, you must condemn January 6th. You must not be accepting of this, right? Or else you have no morals. On the other hand, though, they don't have to do that. Democrats don't have to condemn their own side when they show that they don't believe in the things they say.
To Dry, who did speak out on January 6th.
Okay,
and he
we'll
didn't
talk
help
more
them.
about this when we come back.
Yeah, I just wanted to just put a quick button on it because I was not offended by Biden pardoning his family because I think, just like Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you or tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Right.
We've already had a Trump presidency. We know that this administration is a vengeful one. We know this is a vengeful man. And if I can protect me and mine, I would do that. And so I think we need to show Joe Biden.
Amazing how that same logic doesn't apply to Trump and pardon the January 6th protesters. Well, those are his supporters. So why can't Trump protect him and his supporters, right? Why can't he do that, right? That same logic can be used to justify exactly what Trump did. But what you guys just saw there is Sonny Holston doing exactly what I told you guys is the downfall of the left and the Democrat Party. Well, it's okay when we do it. It's just not okay when they do it. They come up with every excuse in the book to not criticize their own when they're not living up to the standards that they set for everybody else. But yet they want to fake outrage over Trump and what everybody else is doing when they're just as bad, if not worse. They're just sneakier about it, right? That's the thing about Democrats. They're just sneakier. Okay. So, it's just hilarious to me to watch these meltdowns. Trump is keeping his promises. Promises made, promises kept. And because he's keeping the promises, this is why people are losing their minds over it. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.